Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's start off the week strong. B'ezrat Hashem. It should be a week of Geula, week of good news. Okay, so this month of Shvat is sponsored by Mishpachat Jerome, memory of David Aaron's grandmother, also by the Pollocks for memory of Moshe's grandfathers, and the Ilu Nishmat Joni's sister Shira, whose Yortzeit is tomorrow night, or I think tomorrow night, in 2 nights. Shira and Prince Gelea Shalom. Also the Eagle family for all the Eagle birthdays. And also this week specifically is by Stephanie and Charles Sakal in honor of Shimon Baruch, their son's birthday, Ad 120. Esther and Shalom Parnas in memory of Pnina Pearl Bas Yisrael Verivka and their new granddaughter, Mazel Tov. And Ari and Shira Gantavnik in memory of Shira's grandfather, Daniel Moshe Ben Chaim. We welcome all sponsorships as much as possible, so please send. It's always good to send in the names to the executive director of the shul, Michal Reinitz. And we're also going to do for the Refuah Shlema of Yosef Zev Ben Shprinza.
Today is my grandson's birthday.
In honor of your grandson's birthday. Baruch Hashem. And did you have your hand up? Did you want to say something? No? Okay. So, did the pages go around? Okay, I'm so glad we started what we started last week. I've been thinking about what we were learning last week, the whole week, and I got a lot of encouragement from everyone in the shir also to continue to keep on going strong. Obviously, I mean, how bad can you go when you say, let's start learning Geula, let's talk about redemption? What are you going to say? No, it's not so much into that right now. Obviously, this is Dvarim, but this is what we're here for. This is what we're trying to be plugged into. B'ezrat Hashem, please God. So, what we began saying last week, and it was a very hard Sunday morning, obviously, it was right after the Piguim from last Shabbos, and yet we're talking about that anyone that opens their eyes and looks around and realizes, just look around in front of you, you're like, wow, okay, something very big is going on. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something very, very special. We had friends that were here from the UK over Shabbos, people that were visiting from London, they were here for the first time this Shabbos. And they were staying in the Airbnb that's right over here, right next to where we live. There's an amazing Airbnb. Just whoever needs to also contact the executive director of the shul for that. And the view, basically, the view of that apartment is like also the view from our home too, where you're looking out and it's just like, could this really be? Could this really, really be that this is what's in front of us right now? So the mind is kind of, has to logically say, well, yeah, logically we're here, we're back here, and that's a truth. That's mamash. That's mamash true. So what is missing yet? What is missing yet from the full picture of Geula, of redemption? What's missing? What's that? Jewish unity? That's a little thing. Yeah, a little thing. Achdus. It's a small thing. Nachon Meod. So, what's going on over there? Yofi. Do you want to... It'll be easier if we sit down. Okay, thanks, guys. What we're going to be speaking about today is figuring out how to draw up, based on Rav Ruvain Sasson's Torah, how to draw up the missing picture. No, thank you. How to draw up the missing picture of perhaps what may be missing from what we're all hoping for. Now, one of them, Nachon, Jewish unity. Jewish unity is of course something, Nachon. Of course, that's something so crucial. But just to try hard to love each other without a bigger picture won't get us that far. We need to realize the effects of 2,000 years of galut. We got to be really aware of it. We have to call it out, as difficult as it may be, in order to enable ourselves to have the picture right, to have the vision right. I forget which, I think it was in the Bilvavi, Mishkan Evne, we were learning that when a person wants to be koneh a midah, when you want to acquire a certain midah, you have to have some kind of an idea of what it is you're trying to liknot, right? You have to know a little bit. Excuse me. Sorry. You could keep it open a little. You can keep it. People will keep on coming back, and you can keep it open. It's okay. You have to have a little bit of an image of what it is you're trying to buy. When you go to a store, it's the same thing. When you're trying to acquire, it's the same thing. What are we trying to acquire?
Professional athletes do that. They visualize themselves at making that hit, that race, whatever. There's actually psychologists that work with them on that.
So why is it different? Why is it different when it comes to the Geula? Well, it's different because perhaps we don't really know how to activate these faculties. That's really what Galut did to us. Natural faculties of a Jew envisions Geula, lives Geula, breathes Geula, acts like a redemptive person. But 2,000 years of being a foreigner and of being oppressed basically shut off a lot of our most basic natural tendencies of how we normally and organically as Jews think, breathe, act, respond, live, just basic living. Hence, this is very much why, to a certain extent, I don't like sounding like this because I'm saying like this because it sounds very pessimistic, but it's not. It's just l'shem d'shir. This is why, to a certain extent, we are very, very stuck in figuring out how do you get to Jewish unity, right? How do you get to these things that we know are the answers, right? But organically, we're not united. Like if it was just naturally, if we were naturally ourselves, we wouldn't be united. Of course we would. So one sheet, I have a shortcut. It's very, very simple. Just come here for Shabbos and start singing. That'll be the beginning, right? That just come and start singing. That already takes down a little bit of the, plugging you back to your natural self. It's one of the things they say about Shirat Hayam. The greatest miracle of Shirat Hayam is that we all became normal again. What is a Jew in a normal state? He sings, she sings. That's like the normal state of a Jew. And when I sing, I see things, Rata Shivcha Charufa Alayam, that the most simple maidservant, the most simple person in the world, saw things that even the prophets didn't see. So that's one shortcut. But if we're not just going to do busy with shortcuts. We're here for avodah. We're here for work. So look in the page in front of you, in Chaf Aleph on the bottom. Letzayer et ha'atid hashalem. It should be the first page. Letzayer et ha'atid hashalem. And I'll hold on to these pages after Shir. And 25, I think 22 Sfarim were ordered, and they're on their way this week. I'm telling you already. It's in. And they're ecstatic, the Chavra over there. They can't believe it. They're ecstatic. B'et hazot, she'anu mitzapim u'meyachalim lahashlamat ha'geula b'mhera. We're all here, not because we think this is like a cute little short phase. We're here because we're metzapim. Daniela, metzapim. We're metzapim for the big picture, for the whole deal. This is what we have to be busy doing and thinking about and learning about. בסוגיה הגדולה והקדושה של גאולת עם ישראל. ואחת הפעולות הגדולות שנדרשות מאיתנו היא ההתבוננות במדרגות העתידיות. Introspection into the future levels which will be attained and which will be basically our natural way of living. We need to have a picture of what we're looking towards. Pashut Meod. We need to, when we were kids, and even sometimes to our own kids, what's going to happen? It's just going to fall from Shemayim. We did a whole shir on this a few years ago on Beshalach. Is that even true? Is the Beis HaMikdash just going to fall from Shemayim, or are we going to build it? Not such a simple sugya. Right, easy, right?
My 7-year-old is very clear on what's
you know what? The 7-year-old in here is also very clear about this too, But Baruch Hashem, gam v'gam, right?
When you get something, you don't always appreciate it, but if you work towards it.
Here it's even more, honestly, it's even more than that. It's almost like, he's almost saying you need to learn what it means to look at, Aleph, how to look at what you're supposed to look at, look towards, and Bichlal, what are you even looking at? What are you even envisioning? What are you even thinking about? What does the world look like? Now forget the world. What do you look like as a person that's living in a state of Geula? What do you look like? I was sitting with Bar Mitzvah boy last week. Such a beautiful Bar Mitzvah we had this Shabbos here. And I asked him, I don't know where this came from. Usually I don't ask kids, usually I don't even ask adults this question. I said, what do you see when you look in the mirror? Because that can open up a whole, right? I don't know, I felt this, I know this boy at Bar Mitzvah, I had the schus of naming him, so I felt a little bit extra closer to him, So I said to him, Yechiel, what do you see when you look in the mirror? And he gave an amazingly deep answer, but I'm saying for us too, like when we look at when we're looking at the mirror of the future, who do we see? What do we look like in that picture? But he says, you have to have hitbonenut b'madregot ha'atidiyot. You have to basically have an introspection and have a tam, a little bit of a taste of what is the world and you in it going to be like? In a really pnimi way, in a deep, deep way. Shetzrichot liitchadesh b'kirbeinu. These things are going to be renewed in our midst. Fourth line. ציור המצב השלם והמתוקן הוא אחד הצעדים המשמעותיים ביותר לקידום הגאולה. Bringing the geula closer, or us moving more towards the geula. This shlav, what we're just describing this morning, is a very crucial piece of the picture. Very crucial piece. It's not just another cute luxury. He's saying this is mamash, a very important piece of how we're looking at anything. Why? כי הציור וההשערה של המצב השלם מהווים קריאת כיוון לאן צריך לשאוף. What are my aspirations? Where are they taking me towards? להיכן צריך לחתור? חתירה, usually is used in swimming, right? חתירה is like to just the what? Stroke. Yeah, waddle. You said the crawl. בלי הכרת המציאות השלמה והמתוקנת, without the picture, וציורה בדמיון, and its picture, its vision in our imagination, ובחלום הלב, and without dreaming about it, לא נוכל לפעול לקידומה והשבתה. We can't move forward and we can't bring down what it is that actually is going to be happening. Now here we come to something that's very interesting. Should we give up on that 7-year-old vision? Should we? Yeah, but what is that vision? What is the 7-year-old vision? Okay, that's very broad, that's very big, that's very good. But as adults, we sometimes never develop in a holy way. We never develop in a holy way our sense of imagination. Now with the men, in the men's chabura, this is basically, for the last year and a half, what we have been plugged into with the teachings of the Piasetzner Rebbe. The Ish Kodesh understood very clearly, this is that basically, he said this, we said this a few weeks ago, without the sense of developing strong imagination, it's not possible to be an Eved Hashem, and he says, and it's impossible to call yourself a Chassid. Mind-blowing.
That's like
mind-blowing.
because of what he was going through.
Well, this sefer, this was written, not that it was peachy in 1930, but this is before the war. This is in Hachsharas Avrechim. But so we have the 7-year-old vision, and that's all, and it's pure, it's pristine, it's very like untainted, and that's good. But Hashem gave us more years, not to go away from that vision, but to develop it. And that's very, very important for the learning that we're doing here about learning Geula and the whole ma'alach of this sefer. Al Ken.
Can I just say
We have a lot to do. I'm sorry. I'm not going to.
No, it's okay.
If there's something very important at the end, I'm more than happy. But let's go weiter. Al Ken. יש לנו להתבונן בשלמות העתידית של האומה. We need to look deep into the complete picture of the nation of Am Yisrael. And there's still some Jews that aren't learning Geula, right? There's still a few pockets here and there that aren't learning about redemption and are not living redemption, and we should be amongst those that are learning and living it, amen, ken yireh ratzon, every day. There's a chunk in us also that's still not living it and not learning it, right? It's not like we're there. We're learning about where we're all hoping to aspire towards. We have to look at the whole picture of this koma called Am Yisrael. Ubechol shiur hakoma shel Am Yisrael sheod yelech v'yibaneh v'al yedei kach titbaher hatmuna hanifla'a shel chayei am shlemim. The picture of a complete level of life of the full nation will become clear. Bimlo shiur komatam. Shiur koma means the way. Remember last week we were focusing on the word komemiyut. Komemiyut, standing up straight. The picture of what the Jewish nation looks like, not gaiva, not pride, like unholy pride, but like menches, like bimlo shiur komatam. Can you imagine all of Am Yisrael looking like that? Like envisioning that now. What imagery has most of us have of the picture of Am Yisrael for thousands of years? The exact opposite. What happens when we start to come back to Eretz Yisrael? And Rav Kook spoke about this extensively, and he wrote about this in the Ma'amar that we learned called Ma'amar Hador. The young chevra that wanted to see a picture of Am Yisrael like this, standing upright, right? They couldn't see that picture of a Jew standing upright, looking like a Jew, looking like a Yid from the shtetl. Why? Because the imagery they had of the Yid in the shtetl was like this, right? So they come back to Eretz Yisrael, and they're like, we need a shiur koma. We need a person that looks like he's proud to be in the army, in the army of. There was no army that I'm saying that's proud to be a worker. But the problem was the imagery of that person didn't stem with the imagery of what a Jew looked like for thousands of years. But to get to the picture that we're looking towards is that all of Am Yisrael gets rid of the imagery of the Jew in Galut for thousands of years. That's a tall order. That's a big task. But that's what he's saying we need to understand. That's the picture we're looking to draw. That's the imagination we're looking to develop. And that if that's what we're looking to develop, that must begin to happen in the way I live my life today. Now, right, let's go forward. Umimela, end of the third line. Umimela tivaled v'titatzem hakmiya lechidusham bimhera. When the picture becomes clearer, then the kmiha, the longing to renew that way of living, grows and becomes more and more. You get hungrier and hungrier to live like this. It basically draws up this hunger in you to say like, oh my God, that's what it looks like? And he's saying mimela, that means like, as you're doing it, mimela, as it happens, the longing to live like that also grows passionately in you. Remember there was a Rav that said, I'd rather have an Israel that's hated by the world than an Auschwitz that's loved by the world? You know that statement? You ever hear that statement? No one ever heard that statement? I'd rather have an Israel that's hated by the world than an Auschwitz that's hated by the world? And that's loved by the world? No? Okay. Google afterwards to see who said it. I'm not going to tell you. חשיבות העניין מתחזקת לאור, fourth line, חשיבות העניין מתחזקת לאור הידיעה שהגאולה מושרשת בפעולה משולבת מצידו יתברך ומצידנו. So the importance of this whole inyan gets stronger based on the concept that the geula is rooted in actions that's happening both by us and by Hashem. You know, there's a school here that's called Meshalev, right? What does Meshalev mean? integrated, right? Shilu, right? So he's saying you have to understand this whole thing we're speaking about, it's not just you and it's not just Hashem. Like Esther said before, gam vegam. This is a dual part. This is how the partnership takes place. And we're going to explain throughout this book, sheken gazra chokhmato yitbarach. This is how Hashem planned out. This is you want to get involved in your own, in the dimayon of what you think you have to develop. Go into God's imagination for a second, if that's possible, and it is possible. Why is it possible? Because He gave us the Torah. The Alter Rebbe explains this clearly. The Torah and the mitzvahs is basically God saying, do you want to know what I'm thinking about? Read the Torah, you're going to go into my mind, kivyachol, and you'll get a little bit of an inner glimpse of what I thought about when I thought of creating the world. Because it says that God looked into the Torah, istakel be'oraita ubara alma. That means God looked into the Torah that we have. It got God, again, this is all, so to speak, it got God to start thinking, and then God created the world. So if we want to understand a little bit, go deeper into God's imagination, just look at how He spells it out throughout the whole Torah, with a Geula mindset. כפי שהתבהר במהלך הספר, שכן גזרה חוכמתו יתברך, שתבוא הגאולה על ידי קודש הבריחו, וכנסת ישראל יחדיו, that the Geula will come together with Hashem and with Am Yisrael, שכך נהיה שותפים אליו יתברך. This is how we're going to become partners with Him. בהיותו מחלק מכבודו אלינו, לזכותנו בכתר העליון של תיקון העולם והארתו. Does God need us for anything? No. Does God want us to be part of feeling like He needs us? Yes. That's the greatness. That's the awesome greatness. That God would make us feel that He needs us to be part of, look at the words He said here, lezakotenu, to merit us with the higher crown of fixing the whole world and illuminating the whole world. You and I were chosen by Hashem to feel needed in order to fix the whole world. Don't you dare think that you can go out with Tikkun Olam slogans without understanding what that world looks like. What does that world look like? What does my world look like with that, right? ולפיכך צריכים אנו להתבונן בכל עת בענייני הגאולה, כדי שנדע ונשכיל מה מותר עלינו לעשות ומה בידינו לפעול, כדי לקרב כמה שיותר את הגאולה, שתבוא במהרה בימינו אמן. And therefore, we need to keep on looking into concepts, matters of Geulah, so that we know what we should do and what we have to work on in order to bring that great day that much closer. Now, the chiddush of what we learned so far is that no one spoke like this till this generation. Rav Kook began to scratch the surface of talking like this. What I love so much about this sefer is that it is basically saying, it just has the lashon of saying exactly what we were always too nervous to dream out loud, out of fear of disappointment, perhaps, or what else could be a reason that we never spelled these words out like this? That we didn't understand really what we're looking for. 3, it's connected to the first thing, is that we don't really believe deep down inside that we are worthy of being such partners. You have to chuck that into the toilet. That's galut. That is, you understand? That's galut. Subscribing to anything we just said right now, these 3 things, that's galut. So it's big stuff. This is big stuff. It's not little things. It's not small things. One of the things that happens though when we learn these kind of things is that we tend to start to think that we're crazy and the whole world's normal. Or we're normal and the whole world is crazy. One of the two. And I want to make sure, I just want to put a disclaimer here. This happens every time we start a new sefer with whatever we're learning. That, you start thinking, is this just Kool-Aid, straight up Kool-Aid that I'm just drinking, right? What is this, right? Listen to your heart. Listen to the song of your own heart. You don't need me to convince you or the Rav here to explain to you, just listen to the beat, to the rhythm of your own mahalach that's going on inside, and you understand the following thing. When I think of Geulah, everyone becomes more normal. The normal that we've been waiting for. Galut is not normal. Okay? Galut, I'm not only speaking about living in America. You understand that, right? Galut is not a normal, it's not our normal. It's not our normal. Our normal is Geulah. And the more that Geulah, learning these concepts, becomes the norm in my life, the more there's what's called a normalizatia, right? Very authentic Hebrew word, right? It's amazing how there's certain words I know in Hebrew that are actually English words, but I don't know how to say in English, you know? For years I was wondering, how do you say koalitzia in English, right? Now, let's admit though, in order to know where we're going to, we have to admit something. Like, look at the title of the next paragraph, Hakoshi l'tzayer et hashlemut ha'atidit. It is very hard for us to draw this up. Now, what are some of the reasons that it's hard for us to draw us up? I think each person knows themselves. But so often, like I once met a person, and I think that they definitely didn't understand the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I don't think they understand the real people in Lubavitch, but the reason they stopped being Lubavitch is because they felt that all Lubavitchers wanted to complete the picture of the Geulah is for everyone to become Lubavitch. But I believe in my heart and soul that the real Lubavitchers, that's not what it's about. So one of the problems we have with Litzayer Shlemut Atidit is, how do I get to a place of Be'emet believing that not everyone has to think the same in this place of Geulah Shlema Atidit? It seems like a stira, what we call stira minei ubei. That means like a self-contradictory statement. We're talking about what everyone's going to be whole, Shlemut Atidit, like the full picture. And yet that doesn't mean that everyone's going to be on the same page when it comes to certain thoughts. But certain thoughts, yes, they will be on the same page. So how does that work? Which ones are on the same page? Which ones aren't the same page? This brings more of a koshi, why it's so difficult to get to a reality that in our world, we don't really understand. Like what, I'll say like this, what does Achdut today mean? Achdut today means that the fact that you think what you think means nothing about what I feel about you. To me, that's a very important statement. The fact that you hold the way you hold says nothing about what I feel about you. Do you know how hard it is to live like that? Oof, murder. But it's Geula. That's actually a redemptive person lives like that. Mamish lives like that. Now, they may want you to hold different opinions because we believe in the source of the neshama. This is really what's good for you. Like someone that's holding the flag of, let's try to cause the whole country to lechalel Shabbat, and then you're like, it's amazing how your opinions mean nothing about the way what I feel about you. But that's the goal. That is the goal. Nachon? But that doesn't contradict the fact that all I want to say to them is, and how I wish you could come to my Shabbos table to change your mind, right? Inside, meaning, again, we have to hold the belief in the Torah Kedosha, no matter what, always. We have to believe in the Torah because the Torah is God's blueprint for the world. It's God's imagination. That has to be our base for everything. But look what happened in the name of the Torah regarding Achdut. Almost the opposite. In the name of the Torah. Nachon? In the name of the Torah, there are so many people that are thrown into cherem. In the name of the Torah, in the name of what should be the thing that unifies us and brings us to this tmuna kolelet of shlemut atidit, almost the exact opposite has happened. Isn't that weird? Don't you think the Torah is deeper than that? No, isn't the Torah deeper than that? It should be, right? Well, if we look with Galut eyes, that's where the Torah brings us to. But if we look through the Geula eyes, learning the Torah, it's got to bring us to the other place, Mamash Kacha. So look how he begins to take it to the next level. Omnam, במסלול הצעידה אל הקומות הבאות של הגאולה ישנו קושי גדול שצריך לתת עליו את הדעת. As we march towards this next level of understanding גאולה, there's a tremendous hardship that we need to just pay attention to. במשך כמעט 2000 שנה התרגלנו למצב של גלות והתרחקנו מציורי הוד הגדלות שלנו. The 2,000 years took its toll in that, like we said before. It drove us away from how we envision ourselves, of who we are and what we could be. כל המעלות העליונות השייכות לנו באמת עבדו מאיתנו מעת אשר גלינו מארצנו. From the time we were exiled from our land, who we really are and the ma'alot that truly are existing in us left us. אשר על כן, מרחב המבט שלנו מושפע מתמונת המצב בהווה וממצבנו כל משך הגלות, ורוחנו מתקשה לשער את המדרגות האמיתיות הראויות לנו, אליהן אנו צועדים בתהליך הגאולה. Our spirit is having a very hard time coming to terms and peace with what we're told about who we really are. Our spirit is having a very hard time believing. Now, who else had a hard time believing that when we're told you are B'nai Geula, but our spirit told us, I just can't imagine it? When? Velo shamu el Moshe mikotzer ruach. Our story is the same story. Egypt, the Galut and Geula from Egypt is the same story today. Moshe Rabbeinu comes to them and he says, you guys, there's big things going on. Like, this is going to happen. We're Galut. And their Galut was how long? How long was their Galut? 210. We're doing okay. We're 2,000 years, right? And we're dancing around. We're open to entertaining the possibility that we are B'nai Geula, right? And we don't have Eser Makot, the level of that kind of revealed miracles, right?
It's almost like an abusive marriage, that we've been beaten down so much that we don't know who we are, and we don't believe that we can be something else, and then we have to slowly get out of that.
Well, who's the abuser, though?
Ourselves, we are.
It's a combination, right? We've been abused by the rest of the world, knocked down. Every time we start getting up, we're knocked down to we're not good enough again.
You're opening the door for something very hard right now. What do you say to those that say that Hashem is the abusive?
No, I'm not saying Hashem. I'm saying.
No. I know you're not. I'm talking about. I'm putting out something that Galut produced. Galut produced the notion that perhaps the abuse, chas v'sholom, God forbid. But if you see your parents walking into a gas chamber, at a certain point, you're stuck. You have this thing in front of you that's almost impossible to ignore if you believe in God, and we do. So therefore, what we need, as crazy as it sounds, or as difficult as it sounds, to get yourself out of that mess, that's how beautiful and bright the other side is. But understand, this is what we're dealing with now. That's no different. Seeing your parent walk into a gas chamber is no different than seeing your baby being plucked by you and being used as a brick to form a pyramid, or being thrown into water, like in Egypt. So the abuse that was going on and where it led us to dark places, it happened then. It happened this last generation as well, and we're going to be on this. We're going to start singing by water soon, just like they did. It's possible. That's what I'm trying to say. It's possible to be in such a state of what you think is an abusive relationship, and yet still sing a few days later, 7 days later. It's unbelievable. But on the one hand, we want to already see that light, but we don't have the kelim yet to know how to look at that light. Look what he says. About 7 lines from the bottom. Halev shelanu mevakesh or gadol. Our hearts are asking for great light. Sheibaneh Beit HaMikdash me'bi'amenu ve'ashev kohanim, right? All the brachas, all the tefillahs we say. Halev shelanu mevakesh or gadol, avar merchav hadat shelanu, the expansiveness of our mind, eino yodea litzayer oto. Our heart is asking for something that our mind doesn't know how to draw, how to visualize. That's a very intense place. There's a lot of tension going on in that place. The heart is asking for something, and it's clear about what it's asking. But the heart doesn't have to visualize. The heart, that emotion of the heart, the mind has to visualize it. And there's a hitnakshut there, right? Nachon? הלב שלנו מבקש אור גדול, אבל מרחב הדעת שלנו אינו יודע לצייר אותו. אנחנו מכירים את צורת החיים בהווה. We know what life is like right now. והדיבור על מדרגות גדולות יותר מכל מושגי חיינו, speaking like the way we, bless you, speaking like the way we've been speaking in these שיעורים, נשמע לנו כאילו בא מעולם אחר. זר לנו. Bless you. This sounds like this talk is coming from a different world, completely foreign to us. Will the real me please stand up, right? Well, which one is this? המרחק הנפשי, bless you, מאותן המדרגות, the soul distance from these madrigot we're speaking about, לא רק שמחליש את האמון ביכולת שלנו להתקדם עליהן, it doesn't just weaken our trust in our ability to march towards them, אלא שכלל אינו מאפשר להן להיכנס לתוך מרחב השאיפות בחלומות שלנו. He's saying, what Galut basically caused us to do, this is very important, it's not only that it makes it harder to get to where we think we're trying to get to, he's saying what it causes, it doesn't even allow us, because it's so foreign to us, it doesn't even allow us to build up a drive for it. You know, I'll try to bring this, you started with a relationship, I'll try to bring this down to our level a little bit. Someone that's had such a bitter experience with a marriage, lo aleinu, they get divorced, mazel tov, good. But their whole idea of marriage, and they grew up in an abusive home, and what they saw growing up was just as bad, if not worse. How are you going to tell this person about getting into the right mindset? How? It's not just that it makes it harder to march towards what you're looking for. It makes that reality makes it almost impossible to understand what it is you should be looking for. He says, this is the product, this is what happened after all these thousands of years of being in Galut. Let's just admit it. We can't. Nachon, we came back to Eretz Yisrael with what's in our arsenal. Now, everything is really in our arsenal, but activating what's in our arsenal is really what we're trying to do over here. Yeah.
Does the Sanzer Rebbe have any kind of ma'amar of how he got to his state?
The Kloisenberger Rebbe?
Yes. Because having lost everybody in the war, and then he's walking along with his chevra, and he hears that his son died, and he stops, and then he moves on, and they're like, Rebbe, how could you just move on? He says, I got a clap on the shoulder, I look around, it's Tati. Now, how can we get to that personal geula state that would bring us further? Does he ever say that anywhere?
I didn't go through all the Kloisenberger Rebbe's
no, but
Torahs.
It would be something that you would know about.
Yeah, but I'm much more interested in what Mindy is going to say. Much more. Because for his Indian, right, based on his experiences in life, being the Kloisenberger Rebbe, being the grandson of the Chaim Sanzer, he had stuff in his emotional DNA to be able to come to certain levels that sometimes when I read Hasidic tales like that, it makes me more depressed than feeling good about myself. Sometimes. No? No one else suffers from that?
Yeah.
Certain stories, they ruin me. This one, mamash. Why? Ve'eifo ani, right? So that's why I'm saying, of course, I want to know every word that the Tzaddik Yisrael Olam, the Kloisenberger Rebbe ever said. But to become a Geula person, I have to write a sefer. This is what we're doing here. I need to write my sefer of Geula. Because look, we have all this for him. Like, do we need more books? We do. We need a few more books. We do it like a few. But like, let's first get through the stuff that we have. He's going to try to lechaded that dvarim. Let's sharpen the words we said till now. Look at the next page, Chav Gimel. Lechaded that dvarim b'mashal li'eled katan. Let's go to a parable of a little boy. Kvar bereshit darko hu yachol habit al gdolei olam, gdolei hador, velishof liot kmotam. I don't know how many of you grew up amongst giants, but from a young age you have a giant in your life. You possibly maybe could have this vision of, I aspire to be like them. Af sheyesh par gadol beino uvenam, even though there's a huge par, a distance, but not gap between them. Mikol makom, yesh lo modal lechikui. He has some kind of a role model in front of him. He's like, okay, I have this person in front of me. Yesh lo tziyur atidi shel ma shehu yachol liyot. I have some kind of a picture of who I could be. Who I could be. I mean, I grew up in a generation that the Wheaties commercials had us want to be like Mike. That was the thing. Be like Mike. Coming out to Michael Jordan, right? Be like everyone with their aspirations, nachon? Hatziyur hazeh boneh bekirbo chalamot v'sheifot. This picture, when a little child has it in front of him of a certain image, this builds amongst the kid dreams, aspirations, v'solel netivim el hapsagot ha'elu. And it also, mamash, starts to form the roads. It paves the roads towards getting to these heights. This image, this picture, gets into the potential that's hidden amongst the child, and it wakes it up. There are a lot of steps till you get there. But it exists. It exists in the passion, in the concept. בדבר זה יכול להניעו באופן מעשי, בצעדים מדודים, אל עבר אותה גדולה נחשפת. This thing can wake the person up in a certain way towards this great longing desire. I had an image of this last night. I saw a bunch of kids waiting online to get a picture with Yishai Ribo. And I saw in their eyes that, this imagery they have in front of them, those that want to become these musicians and and I tell you two things. One, I was so happy. We know why? Because by Emet, I'll tell you the truth. I've had the privilege of sharing stage with the mamish, the greats. Unless he's a really good actor, which is impossible, there was zero ego. I'm telling you the truth. And it's not like I don't think it's like he's working hard not to, it was just so being, like the time we spent and the interaction was so clean, so naki. I'm telling you, it was so naki. So I was so happy that all these kids, right? But also I was so happy that, exactly what he's saying over here, they see an image, he wakes up something in these kids, he does. He wakes them up, right? So they have some kind of a picture of something, and of course the 10-year-old kid doesn't think he's going to be on stage tomorrow night. But one time I heard Yishai talk like this about someone else, meaning I heard him talk like this about Eviatar Banai. So you see that it's there, the imagery is there. And by a kid, it gets woken up, and it's like, and sometimes when the kid has enough of enough emunah and enough inspiration to listen to that awakening that happened inside, and Hashem gives them the talents, they'll get there. We just don't always have the right person. That's the modal lechikui, that's the role model. In this situation, you do. But you don't always have that right role model that's waking up the child and pushing them like, oh, this is what you want. In fact, the whole Western world, Western civilization, has placed role models that are awakening certain nekudot by children. Hashem Yishmar. Just give your kid an hour on YouTube. And you'll see it for yourself. I mean, don't give your kid, I'm saying, you know what I mean, right? And it wakes certain things up in the kid that you would never want these things to be the things that wakes them up and then makes them have an imagery and follow this dream, right? Chas v'chalila. אמנם אילו בכל העולם היו רק ילדים בני גילו, לא הייתה לו כלל האפשרות להביט אל הציור העתידי הזה. If this 7-year-old or 10-year-old only had 7 or 10-year-olds in their life, there'd be no one to look up to. There would be no person awakening this thing. ולהיפגש בבהירות עם הפוטנציאל הפנימי החבוי בו, עם מה שמבקש את נפשו. Now he says like this. עם ישראל עבר מיעוט עצום בגלות. We went through mi'ut. What does mi'ut mean? It doesn't just mean that we lost a lot of neshamas and bodies. It's not what it means, right? What does it mean that we went through a mi'ut?
Scarcity.
A what?
Scarcity. Scarce mindset. Scarcity.
Scarcity. I don't even know what that means.
It means mitzumtzam, like.
Oh, like a contraction. Mi'ut means that we became small. But what about us became small? Our what?
Our belief.
Anything that has to do with what we just said right now about those things that touch us at a young age and that get us to believe that we could be big, that there's someone to look to. Our imagination. The development of our imagination became very, very small. The avar mi'ut.
Also because the mindset that we had lived into, the world said, yes, the Jews are always oppressed. So like even that, like to change that, not that we care what the world says, but to change that, way of thinking, like we're not oppressed.
No, but that's why it says, V'chol tzirei gadlut, the non-oppressed image, nimchaku meitanu, bless you, b'meshech k'alpayim shana, for 2,000 years, these pictures of how big we could become, there was no, lahavdil, not lahavdil, there was no, the Yishai Ribos running around Jewish children saying this, listen to your neshama, this is who you could be. And there was no one. It didn't exist. Ka'et, Rav Sasson says, but we're in a new world. Anu, and this we have to just accept as a truth because it's happening in front of us. Ka'et anu noladim michadash. Ach beshone me'oto hayeled, we're being reborn again, but as opposed to the kid that we discussed before, שיש בתוך מרחב חייו מציאות ממשית של גדלות שמהווה עבורו מודל לחיקוי. The kid had a role model. That role model can touch upon the expansive mindset of where I could get to or where I could aspire. לעם ישראל אין ציור כזה. This is it. He's saying Am Yisrael is the kid, but the kid without a role model. Heavy stuff. I mean, we have a lot of Rabbeim we like and Tzadkanios we like, but we don't have, especially in this door, we don't have that person that all of Am Yisrael is like, wow, this is the leader of Am Yisrael. We don't have this modal chikui. Now again, this is part of the plan. Don't get to, it's not like, no, it's like, just realize what you're up against. We're marching towards the top, right? The Geula, the Koma Shlema, but there's no one that's like, there's no one that's causing, there's no one there. There's no imagery, there's no direction, he's saying. There's no one that's pressing the buttons and awakening within us certain things and saying, this is what it looks like, this is where you walk, this is how it works. There's no modal lechikui. Lachen, therefore, אופק המבט שלנו אינו מסוגל לצייר את השלבים הבאים. Therefore, the way we peek at the way we look at the horizon, right? We don't have the ability to look the way we need to look. מרחב התודעה שלנו כלוא בתוך ההווה. Our תודעה, that means our consciousness is jailed, כלוא, בתוך ההווה. Our consciousness is jailed in what we're stuck in right now, in whatever we see right now. ומושגים כמו נבואה, רוח הקודש, מקדש, ממלכה, נתפסים כמו חזון רחוק ונעלם. Let's face it. When I say Beit HaMikdash, when I say prophecy, right? When I say monarchy, Jewish monarchy. First of all, when I say monarchy, the only thing we're thinking about is England, right? And they should have a refuah shlema, right? I'm saying like this: Mamlacha, Mikdash, Ruach HaKodesh. So where does our mind take us? Oh, then. Ooh. That's what we're changing. That's what we're trying to change. That when we say Mikdash, Mamlacha, Chazon, Nevuah, Ruach HaKodesh, can you imagine if right away our natural sense would be like, yeah, here, now, mamash, right now. I'm happy, but I want to be included in the younger generation too. I'm there. I'm actually not so worried about them as I am about us. I don't want to give up on us. Why? I don't want to give up on us. I want to give up on anyone that's alive today. Baruch Hashem. But I'm saying is, it's easy to say the kids have it, even though we know that to be a truth. I have to have it. I have to have it. It's not enough. It's got to be. I think when we say the melo koma, like the full koma, we're speaking about like a koma shlema. Last week we were talking about it in the terminology of bunk beds. Yeah, like the melo koma has to have it. That everyone. But he's saying over here, we are as a full, a full picture without this modal lechikui. But that means that we have to understand in a reality like that, then where do you go? Well, first he says like this: these words, these concepts, nevuah, chazon, all these things, they have to stop being used in terms of what once was or maybe one day. No, there needs to be an understanding of right now, here. It's Baal Shem Tov Torah. אמנם מאוויי הלב הפנימי מבקשים את הקומות האלו, כדרך הפוטנציאל המבקש להופיע, אך חיסרון הנוכחות שלהם בחיינו מפריד בינם לבינינו. Again, the inner chambers of the heart are in a constant state of davening for this thing to appear in front of us, constantly, always. But again, the tension between that place that's constantly aware of this is what I need, this is what I want, as opposed to, but how on earth, what's the language? What does it look like? How to develop that ratzon of the lev explains to us the pasuk, V'yadata hayom ba'ashevota elevavecha. To be a truth has to come down into the heart. And Geula is that there's no tension between the moach and the lev. Galut is that there's a machitza. You think we have a machitza here? The machitza, then such a machitza between the two, and it's trying so hard to get together, but there's such a tremendous machitza. So in this sefer, the tools we'll be getting in this sefer is to how to become someone that when you say words like Ruach HaKodesh, Nevuah, Mamlacha, Beit HaMikdash, that it's here, that it's now. I mean, even if physically the Mamlacha has not been, resurrected yet, and the building, the physical building, is not down here yet, living like Geula Jews is such a jump towards all the places that for 2,000 years of Galut, like this book could not have been written in a previous generation because of the physical state of Am Yisrael. Okay, so the physical state of Am Yisrael is much better today. The example given, open your eyes to this room, right? We'll take a walk, just look outside. Aval yesh po hashlama of the koma. We have to mashlim the picture of the koma. Please God, we'll continue from here next week. I'll take back your pages and we'll continue. Thank you so much, everyone. It should be a beautiful week. Leah? Yeah, of course.